Yvette Cooper's plan to challenge hateful belief, the sort of multifaceted effort to compete with the harmful ideologies that have spread across the UK, this initiative, spearheaded by the Home Office, involves a rapid sprint to develop a comprehensive and practical approach to countering extremism of any form. It's become extremely pressing in the light of recent events, but legislation drafted in haste is legislation that is generally regretted. And the rise of extremist ideology, both online and on the streets, has been a growing concern for some years, and it's a shame it hasn't been adequately challenged. I think we have many of the laws in place that can challenge it, as indeed the recent arrests and incarcerations have demonstrated in the last few days. But Cooper's critique points to a gap in government response since 2015, which she argues has left communities vulnerable to radicalisation. I think she's wrong. That gap has already been closed. But it is true that the governments haven't done very much since 2015 because they've been distracted by Brexit and by this obsession with immigration. And is there a cohesive strategy, or does the government look as if it's interested? I think it's probably the latter thing. This alarming increase in young people being radicalised, particularly through online platforms that are often beyond the reach of traditional law enforcement. The new approach by Cooper is supposed to address these shortcomings by thoroughly analysing current trends in extremism, understanding the effectiveness of existing countermeasures, and identifying areas where policy gaps exist. This rapid sprint initiative is expected to inform broader government strategy that will not only counter extremist ideology but also prevent radicalisation processes at the root. The strategy is set to target a wide ideological spectrum, including both Islamist and far-right extremism, as well as other emerging threats such as extreme misogyny and violence-centric beliefs. But mapping out the causes and the proliferation of these dangerous ideologies, particularly among the youth, is reactive and preventative, and one policy cannot fit all. Cooper's emphasis on community involvement in this strategy highlights the importance of local insights and the need to build consensus around the measures to be implemented. Therefore, I think she's not planning new legislation, she's simply planning examination, which is probably the right thing to do. And she's also planning for this to be collaborative, which I think is probably also crucial, as extremism often exploits divides in society and fractures in the social fabric of the community. And by working closer with communities, the government hopes to foster resilience against extremist narratives and create an environment where such beliefs cannot easily take root. Establishing the only way to counter extremism is to establish positive a sense of positive belonging. If that is absent, if the community is simply defined by negatives, then those positives will be found elsewhere. That sense of belonging will be found elsewhere, and that is the issue. So Yvette Cooper is right to be focusing on the community. I'm not sure the community has the tools to build those positive frameworks to project cohesion, to project community, to project incorporation. But this initiative underscores the importance of updating, revitalizing counter-extremist measures, counter-extremist efforts beyond the legal framework to match the evolving nature of a threat. As extremist groups increasingly use sophisticated online methods to recruit and radicalize individuals, particularly the youth, traditional approaches may no longer suffice. And of course, the extremist radicalization process may not be that conscious of what it's doing. And therefore may not be very clearly articulated. So the new strategy, which should integrate modern technological tools and data analysis methods to disrupt the online pipelines, the online radicalization pipelines, needs to be ahead of the game rather than playing catch-up. By the time these radicalization efforts are taking hold, it's too late. They then are aware of what they're doing. We need to get into this before they're aware. And that means being quicker and being and looking at all the rubbish. It's by sifting through the sort of popular websites, popular sources of information, by talking to people, by getting people to talk to us, that we can, and I'm speaking there as a teacher, that we can keep our eye on what's happening. But by trying to ban things, actually we close up the information. We need that information. We need to keep things open. And the online security, the online security bill, which is going through at the moment, which I think is almost law, contains so much effective censorship as to be a hindrance rather than a help. That's not going to help the services get information. And it's much better for us to monitor where things are rather than what you do with them. I come back to the whole idea of microchipping knives, and it's about monitoring traffic, which should be quite easy. That should be quite easy. Yvette Cooper's pledge to renew and intensify efforts against extremism. This should be a turning point, a crucial turning point in the UK's approach to this persistent and evolving threat. We need to know about stuff before we can challenge it. We need to be there at the beginning. And to challenge this stuff is not to condemn it, though we do. It's to provide an alternative narrative, an alternative sense of belonging. And that means getting out of this sort of professional speak, and reaching out to be the central issue in the community. I don't see that it's impossible for us to project a sense of cohesion. And this is not about finding the gaps or plugging the gaps. It's about putting forward a single idea of value. We need to value other people. If we value other people, they will value what we stand for. What we stand for is freedom and fairness and inclusivity. And we have to close the gaps in our systems, in our policies, our safeguarding policies that get in the way of extremist ideology. But extremist ideology, of course, thrives where people feel under threat or undervalued. It thrives in prisons, for example, demonstrably. Why? Because people feel undervalued, under threat, unwanted. Of course they are. So we have to make sure that sense of being imprisoned in our society is not present within the community itself. That sense of isolation. We need to reach out. And the success of Yvette Cooper's initiative will hinge on her ability to adapt to new changes, to be proactive in the fight against all forms of extremism, rather than to have one solution that fits all, and rather than to have some sort of benign rhetoric as a response, because words are just words, and we've got so used to words being used in a sort of passive-aggressive fashion by the authority figures. We need to find a better form of communication. I think we need to look to popular entertainment. We need to look to rap. We need to look to imagery, graffiti. We need to look to dance. We need to look to expressions of community and individualism, which means that while sport also plays a role, we need to look particularly to those sports which emphasize individualism and value, and that can cut through this sense of being coerced and cajoled into conforming. We need to appeal to the non-conformists, the people who feel left out.